Now, AI systems are increasingly influencing decisions in areas like hiring, healthcare, and law enforcement. But there's an alarming underrepresentation of young women in the AI and data science industries. Today, we look into the implications of developing AI systems without the diverse perspective necessary and how we can achieve true gender equality in the digital age. AI and automation thought leader and Business Day contributor Johan Steyn join us now with more insights. Johan, always a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Great to see you. Good afternoon.
Oh, Johanna, we of course think of AI as intelligent, some form of intelligence there. It is still informed by human biases, isn't it? And that's why it is possible for certain perspectives, ideas, and representation to be left out of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a creation of humans, this technology, and it comes with all of our biases, our past biases, our racial biases, our gender biases, and because this technology is becoming so powerful and so embedded into our everyday lives, the idea that we need diversity in how we develop these platforms is becoming more and more important, especially here in Africa.
Let's then talk about the issue of gender here. And of course, when we look at who at this time, Johan, is leading the AI technology in terms of, just the creation of all of it, are we seeing women being underrepresented? And is that normally the first show-tell sign that, the eventual outcome will also lead to a shift or some sort of an imbalance in representation for genders?
It's already imbalanced. Remember, we consume the products from the so-called global north. A lot of those products and platforms are amazing, but we really need to make sure that it's relevant to Africa, to South Africa, but also to our cultural and obviously from a gender diversity point of view. I mean, if you go to a lot of these new large language model platforms like Google's Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and we have these text-to-image platforms, a lot of fun to play with. For instance, you can say, give me an image in the style of Van Gogh, an oil painting of a leadership team. Now, I encourage people to play around with this because if you ask for an image about a leadership team, 90% of the images will be about men. And around about the same percentage will be about Caucasian men. So, and if you ask about something like servitude, nursing, housewives and the like, it'll be obviously female pictures, but non-Caucasian pictures. And it's a massive problem for the narrative that we tell people on our continent, especially our youngsters. The narrative is that AI is a white man's world. And this is not even a political conversation, it's the reality. And we see it in the statistics of the low amount of young females in Africa that enter the AI field. Now, unless we have representation culturally, but also from a gender point of view, we will naturally build platforms that don't serve our population. It's a lot more serious, I think, than people realize. And that's why I wrote the article that we'll see in the paper this week and why we need to keep on speaking about this.
Yeah, and I think a big one, I think, that trips us up as human beings is also how do we, take hold of this situation and turn it around as soon as possible. Of course, we might think of starting with education. That could only be one part of it.
Yes, absolutely. Look, if we think of STEM education, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, only about 30% of people in Africa who undergoes STEM education, only 30% are young females. Only 9% of AI and technology startups in Africa are led by females. So, and we know that there are socioeconomic situations. We know that motherhood plays a massive role in careers for young ladies. But I think we can do a lot. Now, one of the things we can do is that mentoring, that example that we set for young women in Africa, we need to change that. I mean, I was invited to speak at an AI conference for women, for African women, and I was the opening keynote, and I actually said, I'll be there, but I won't speak, because what are they going to learn from me? And then one of my really good friends, Emily Mbele, who's one of the CIOs at Rand Merchant Bank, who has the story of rural upbringing, poverty, climbing the corporate ranks, she opened that conversation, and the young ladies loved it. So I think, again, the examples we set, the mentoring, how to deal with corporate politics, how to deal with gender issues in the corporate world, those things are important. But I think I really want to encourage young African women or African women who have climbed the corporate ladder to spend some of their precious time mentoring young ladies. I think that will really change the narrative and change this situation. We need to spend a lot more money in actually encouraging young ladies in Africa to enter this field. But we also then need to realize, again, what about parenthood? What about socioeconomic situations, poverty, access to the network and the like? It is quite a holistic answer that we need. We need to work with government. We need to work with corporates who sponsor these initiatives. But if we don't do it, we will end up with a world that is not at all representative of our continent. And we are creating the most powerful technology we've ever created. So the stakes are high, and hopefully we will not be caught asleep at the wheel on this issue.
I really love getting your ideas on this, Johan, because often when we speak of how to solve societal issues, we'll say it is teachers in the classroom, it's business leaders in corporate, it's civil society. But I think what you're also saying to us here is the fact that as a society, we need to decide that we will all want to come along, and we all kind of need to play our part there. And I'm also just wondering from an investment perspective here in South Africa, as we start to see, many companies, corporates, businesses bring on AI into their day-to-day systems and processes there. Is there a representative at that level, at least? So even if the technologies are created in the global north by a different demographic, when we bring them home, are they received by people who are more open and who are less biased, I would say?
Yeah, look, I do see a lot of positive signs in that regard. A lot of our corporates are really looking at doing their best when it comes to employing our local young people, especially females. But sometimes the pressure is so high to get these platforms integrated that they will go with the big consulting firms, the big technology firms, and not necessarily have time or money for educating our youngsters while they're doing it. One of the big problems I see with young technologists is that they are often technically very astute, but part of their training is lacking in that they're not prepared for the corporate world and the politics. So they typically would come and work for a bank for 2 or 3 years, pay off their student loan or their internship, and then they are highly employable and they would typically leave our country. So I do think there is a lot of goodwill around this. I think a lot more can be done. The other problem that I see, and there are a lot of amazing initiatives around African young women entering STEM, entering AI and data science. But I don't really see a collective ecosystem. There's a lot of initiatives, they're all doing their own thing, and thank goodness they're doing it. I think that we can do a lot more to pool all of those resources together, especially from a funding point of view. So that it's not a hit and run kind of thing. Now, these young people, whether they're male or female, but especially these young ladies, they need a lot of mentoring, not just around the AI stuff and the tech stuff, but how do you operate in a corporate? How do you raise a family? How do you manage your family? How do you start a business? That holistic approach for the future of running an amazing company, I really see that lacking. And I think we can get it right if we can just pool all of our resources together.
Well, Johan, always fascinating chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was Johan Steyn, AI and automation thought leader and Business Day contributor.